Hi, welcome back to Makeover May with Latitudes Art Gallery. I'm Tasha Cleveland, and today we are taking a look at another one of our Makeover May room entries. And today's room is Karen. And Karen has a space where she has a mirror and fireplace in the center of a large wall. And now she has two blank spaces on either side of this fireplace pop out that she needs to find artwork for. And oftentimes people will get stuck on this process. When you have two side-by-side walls, sometimes it'll be like a niche. A lot of the new builds will have like a slight inset when you walk into the entry, and they don't know how to deal with these two insets that obviously need artwork. And what do? How do I find something that matches two pieces side by side? So that's really common in the gallery, as well as something like this, where you have two walls that are divided by something in the center. And because it's slightly divided, you can't just do one large piece. Because especially in this case, we have a pop out. So the wall is not flush. And so how do you deal with this scenario? A lot of times what people will try and do is they'll try to find a pairing of prints, like pre-selected for you. And oftentimes what you end up with when you find pre-selected prints that are paired together is basically like an abstract piece, and it's the exact same thing, but one little piece is different on one than the other, or it's flipped, or flowers that are just slightly different from one print to the other. And it can be really boring, really predictable, and it's just not very exciting. You don't have a lot of choices. So how do you find a pairing that is actually complementary to each other, that feels good in the space and makes sense when it's separate? So today we're going to take a look at Karen's space, and so that you understand what I'm talking about. So here's Karen's room. This is this wall protrusion that I'm talking about. It only sticks out about 1 inch from the wall. And then she's left with these two side pieces on either side of the wall that she needs to find artwork for. So this is how I generally like to work this in the gallery. I like to find one image that I can split into two pieces. So let's pull this image. This is actually one of my favorites for this space. This is actually a Yosemite picture, and you can see right here that this is the full image. And my rule of thumb when I'm working with something like this, when I'm trying to find a piece that I can split into a diptych and separate, is each side needs to be interesting enough on its own and make sense on its own. And then when they're together, it's sort of this really cool flow that just magically matches perfectly because it's actually the same picture. That's the easiest way to work this. So this image, you've got this beautiful Yosemite mountain on the left, and you've got a beautiful lake on the right and the sunset, and it's got two separate subjects really happening here. And it works really well in this space. I absolutely love the blues and the neutral tones, the greens. It anchors this space really well. So I'm actually really happy with this. Let me show you one other option, which is to find a pairing. So the pairing is harder to do. You have to find something that's complementary, and this pairing actually I liked a lot because of the golden tree that's actually just a backlit tree, and it mimics these yellow fall leaves over here, and the blue-gray water mimics the mountain that's blue-gray in the background. So I'm actually happy with this pairing, but it's still not my favorite way to do this, and it's not my favorite pairing for the space. So let's take a look at some of the other pairings that I liked in here. Let's see, here we go. So this one, now Karen had asked for, she asked for beaches. And so I was looking through and trying to find some beaches that would work for this space. And this is a Hawaii beach. So you've got this beautiful palm tree really focused on the right-hand side with a rainbow. And then you've got Shipwrecks Beach on the left, which is actually a subject all of its own. It's really beautiful on its own. So I'm really happy with this pairing. I was surprised that I liked it in their space as much as I did. And I would say if Karen did decide to go with an image like this, I would pull some more of these colors into this neutral space to break up some of the dominant blue, because currently we just have a blue and beige pattern, a blue and beige palette happening in here. So pulling in a couple more of those colors would anchor that into the room. This one, Stormy Skies, is actually quite beautiful in their space. It's got some of these richer navy blues up at the top, but you can see this is really more of just a water view on the right-hand side, and the left, you get this really beautiful shoreline disappearing into the sunrise on the left. So that's a fun pairing. This one is Pismo Beach. Now, let me show you one of the things that I also look for when I'm looking to split an image into two for something like this. Not only do we have different subjects on either half of this image, so that checks that box, but the other thing I like is to be able to feel like I can go into that image. And so in this left-hand side of the image, I've got something blocking in the foreground, but it works because the right-hand side of the image allows me to mentally meander on the sand and walk out to see that sunset. So I feel like I can get lost in this image because of this pathway. Now, when I separate it, it doesn't work as well for me over here. I don't feel like I can get lost over on that sunset because this path takes me to nothing. So that's one thing that I would be looking for. And so that's one reason that pairing is, even though I love the colors, it didn't work as well for me. This is just another beach, and it's a beach on either side, which is good if you want the space to be calm and to just sort of have a little bit of softness in the background. An abstract works really well for that as well. The only thing I didn't love as much on this is the cloud formation feels like it's pulling from the center, and then we don't have the center for that to make sense. So when it's all together, it makes sense because you're seeing it all going to the vanishing point, but when we cut it down the middle, you lose that vanishing point. And so that doesn't work as well, even though I love the color palette there. So, foamy flute. I had to put foamy flute up on the wall, and it's like, I just can't quit you, foamy. I just can't. It's so good all the time. And in this space, I really, really loved it. Foamy flute is one of those kind of like unicorn images. It just kind of works no matter what. And it's mimicking the exact color palette that Karen has in her space. It's also sort of abstract, and it has a lot of breathing room already built into the image. And when I say that, I mean, look at the sky and look at the sand. And the busiest part of the image is actually the center of the image. And so it has a built-in breathing room in the image itself versus something like, let's say, this guy that's busy everywhere. It's full and busy everywhere. So I would need to go much smaller on this image because I need breathing room on my wall. Whereas this image, I could go much larger because there's built-in breathing room. It doesn't feel as overpowering. So foamy flute, I love you. It's a good one. And what's this one? Hanalei Bay. Actually, that one looks phenomenal in this space as well. Again, you can see we've got the pier subject on the right-hand side with a really interesting cloud formation. And on the left-hand side, we have a gorgeous mountain view. And actually, if I get in tighter, I think you can see there's little boats out here. So there's a lot happening in this image on either side, which makes it really fun. That's always what I'm looking for. So there's Hanalei. Let's take a look. I think I've got one more to show you. This is actually the first one I put on there. And after going through our entire inventory of images, it's still my favorite one in this space. It is actually one of my favorite images to split because it has such a strong subject matter on either side. And so you've got the two trees, which if you're from Ventura or Ventura County, you know exactly what that is. This was a landmark that we had in Ventura County for a long time, many decades. And it's no longer, they've both died, but it is something that's near and dear to most Ventura residents. And on the right-hand side, you can see the sunset and in the distance, the Channel Islands. So I love what's actually happening here is pulling that blue up high onto the wall. We kind of saw this with Gary's room last week when you've got that color being pulled up and balancing out some of that heaviness. So we're breaking it up. We've got a dark rug, then we break it up with a white furniture and a black in the center, and then we've got dark in the image and blue on the top again. So it's kind of like flip-flopping things and balancing everything out rather than it all just being heavily weighted in one place. So I would say my favorite one for this space is Ventura Sunset. And I'm going to give her two choices just in case she is not a Ventura fan and it's not her jam. We'll go back and get her something else as well. And let me just shrink these guys down now. I wanted them to be bigger so you can see what they looked like when I was going through them. But the other issue that she has is this light switch on the wall, which is a bit of a challenge. Now, we've talked about this in previous Makeover May series. Last year, we had a wall with a triangular window, and below it was a light switch, and it was sort of like taking up the whole wall, just like this one. The thing that you can do with that is you can either install in the bulb, wherever your light bulb is in your ceiling, you can install an adapter that goes, you put your light bulb into that, and then you screw that adapter into your socket, and that turns it into a remote control light switch. And then you can take that little hockey puck wherever you want. You can put it on the coffee table or you can mount it on the wall in a more convenient location. So this is often my recommendation when you're dealing with a light switch that just happens to be smack dab in the center of the wall. If you cannot do that, then you would just need to size down on the whole piece. But for today, we're going to assume that she's going to play that game with me, and she's going to swap that out with a hockey puck. The other thing you can do in this case, I just don't love it that high. So that's the other problem. That light switch, sometimes builders just really want them to be the focal point, because really this artwork needs to be about eye level on this wall. And to do it eye level, that means we are just covering that light switch, which makes it frustrating because I really don't want the art that high on the wall. But you could if you have to, Karen. It's just less ideal to have to hang it based on your light switch. So let's take a look if we shrink these guys down so that you can see a little bit better what this is going to look like on their wall. And now we've talked about breathing room a lot. In this case, the rest of the room is really simple. So you can see all of the other walls have a lot of breathing room and space to them. So that's why leaving these walls blank really wasn't an option for Karen, because the rest of the room is kind of screaming, fill me up as well. So you got to pick some walls, you got to pick a focal point, and this is definitely the focal point of the room. So it makes a lot of sense for this to be the wall that we're filling. And I'm going to pull this down just a little bit more. So now that we've sized it a little bit more appropriately, it's not as bad if you have to push it up a little bit. And in this case, we'll go ahead and do that for her, assuming she can't put in that adjustment. So that is what I would recommend for you, Karen. And as your backup choice, I would say my favorite pick was Honolulu Bay. So beautiful in your space. And Foamy Flute, but that's a given. All right, thank you so much for your entry, Karen. I really appreciate you taking the time to submit. And if you have not entered your room in our Makeover May giveaway, hurry up. It is the 20th. You've got 10 days, 11 days left. 11 more days to get your entry in. And all you have to do is take a picture of your room with a wall that you want artwork on and send it in. And we will select an image that's perfectly paired for your space and automatically enter you to win in the drawing, and we will be pulling those at random on the 1st of June. We will be selecting 3 winners. One person is going to win our $1,000 grand prize, and then we have 2 runner-up prizes. And that's it. It's really easy. So if you haven't done it, why not? Hurry up. Go send in your photo. I'll see you next time.